I don't know. I feel a little different in the way that I approached it because it wasn't like a check the box, but for me it was like it was just a part of life. It was a thing that you do, so it was going to be a natural thing that was going to show up, and I went with the flow, and the flow wasn't very good, but so that basically I've spent my whole life trying to figure out what this is all about.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Relationships Done Different podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Paula Peralta, and I'm joined by, I can see you on my screen. So my name is Paula Peralta, and I'm joined by Melanie Mead, Justine McKell, and Christopher Hughes. So we had the idea of developing the Relationships Done Different podcast based on the book Relationship, Are You Sure You Want One?, which was written by Simone Milasas and Brendan Watt. And as we put the crew together to create this, we really looked at diversity in lifestyle and in just the way that we look at things. And I'm really, really excited to be a part of this conversation with the four of you. So let's jump right in and talk about relationships done different. And I'm going to kind of just we'll pitch it back and forth and see how we go. Chris, can you talk a little bit about when you hear relationships done different, like what does that mean to you?
That means that there is no unicorn out there of the perfect way, the right way, the ideal way, and you can actually create it as it works for you.
Yes, I'm in. Sign me up. And Mel, before Relationships Done Different, what was your relationship history?
Varied. Because we were talking about this last week anyway, so thank you for getting the wheels turning in my head before today, because I actually spent the week looking at it. I don't know. I feel a little different in the way that I approached it because it wasn't like a check the box, but for me it was like it was just a part of life. It was a thing that you do, so it was going to be a natural thing that was going to show up, and I went with the flow, and the flow wasn't very good, but so that basically I've spent my whole life trying to figure out what this is all about.
I love it. And Justine, what's your current relationship status?
Married, two kids. But previously I was desperately single. I wanted to be in a relationship my whole life and thought there was the perfect relationship and wanted to be married and have kids and the white picket fence, and now I've got it. It's interesting.
I love that we're on video and audio, and your face when you said, now I've got it.
No, it is wonderful. It's just not kind of what you expect, and there's its challenges, which I'm sure we'll explore along the way, and some great moments too.
Yeah, I think that's the thing about relationships and in general is that they never show up the way you think they're going to, much like life. And also, I love what you said, Chris, about relationships and different, because it's like creating something that works for you. Like, what if your relationship didn't have to look like anyone else's? So yes, Justine, you have you've got the husband and the babies and maybe the white picket fence, I don't know. And still that relationship on the outside might look different, but internally it can look drastically different than what people might project that looks like. So I love it. Chris, what is one of you're married, I know. Mm-hmm. And before you were married, what was your relationship life like? What was your relationship culture?
Culture, that's an interesting description of it, I suppose, because I guess it was a culture. What I said when I was thinking about this question before, I described it as the fabled promiscuous gay lifestyle. You know, what culture tells us is that if you're a young gay man about town, you get to sleep with everyone that moves and not even get their name most of the time. And I gave it my all. I really put my back into that one, no pun intended. And I had a great time. But I guess similar to to what Justine was saying, I was looking for a relationship as a way to, I didn't realize it at the time, but to be done. You know, it's and Melanie even said it too, it as a box you tick, where you get this thing called a relationship and better yet a marriage, and that means okay, you're finished there. Not like about a year ago, I moved into a new house with my husband, and Gary Douglas, the founder of Access Consciousness, said to me, well, I guess you're done. You've got your forever home and your forever husband and your forever job and your forever car. I guess you're done. And when he said the words forever, which again, that's there in the marriage vows, forever, till death do us part, it felt like a jail sentence. And I realized, oh, that's what most people do. They look for a relationship to be done.
Yeah.
I think yes, 100%. It's interesting. So I was married and was married for 2 years, got divorced, and then went through the, like, what I kind of jokingly refer to as my hoe phase, where like I did all the exploration after I had one failed marriage. And whereas a lot of people do it the opposite way, where they go out and they play and they explore and then they settle down, right? So it's been really interesting, especially after being introduced to the tools of Access Consciousness, because I had actually already been married for a little bit after once I was introduced, and seeing the possibilities available with relationships done different, and that you can continue to create something different even after you tick the box, right? So even after you get married, you can still ask questions. Even if you're not getting married, but you're choosing a relationship, whatever that looks like, you can still ask questions and grow and learn and have fun and have it look so different than anything else that's ever existed. So I am so grateful for this conversation and so excited for this podcast. So Justine, what's one relationship tool that you use in your relationship, or one that's kind of a go-to for you if you're talking to people about relationship and different tools?
I think one that I probably need to go to a lot more is gratitude, because it's just, you forget it. You become on this, like this train that you go, drop the kids at school, go do your work, come home, bath, beds, fall asleep in bed with them. Like, it's just, it becomes a bit routine, and you forget sometimes to stop and be grateful. Like, my husband cooks dinner every night. Like, that's amazing. I don't ever go step into that kitchen for a number of reasons, but he's like, no, you could conquer the world, but you cannot come into the kitchen. You know, I'll do the laundry and fold and stuff like that, so I'm not totally useless. But like, I think gratitude is the most powerful and overlooked tool that I need to go back to regularly, because you can change anything with gratitude. And that's one of the elements, 5 elements of intimacy, that we're going to explore a lot more in this podcast too.
Yeah. Also, I once heard something that said, in the face of gratitude, judgment cannot exist. And one of the biggest killers in relationships is judgment. It's insidious. So you start, you don't fold the towels the right way, or you don't wash the dishes or take out the trash when you're supposed to, or you're not having enough sex, or you're having too much sex, or whatever that is, right? Like, there's just all these judgments that start to come away and really erode the possibilities that are available in relationship. So I love that. I love that thing about tools. Mel, what about you? Like, what's the best relationship advice you were never given?
Oh dear. I think actually you touched on it earlier. It was that idea of creationship. It was it's that thing of where even Christopher was saying, it comes to an end. I've done it, what next, rather than to keep creating together. And as I said at the start, I still do spend a lot of time trying to figure out what's going on. And through that, it was actually just this constant exploration. So a lot of people, when I meet them, and if they act like just general, you meet friends or whatever, or somebody you meet for the first time, are you married or do you have kids? And they assume all these things about you. And I actually get a great kick out of it because I have a son who's 20 years old, and people never expect that to come out my mouth when I say to them. So they're looking at, they've got life right, they've got married, or they're in the perfect relationship and they have kids, and in comes this woman they do not expect to have a child that's so old, and just says, oh yeah, I have that, and they're not sure how to take it. It's usually like, oh, that's the last thing I'd expected from you. And it put me into a lot of question because, I wasn't getting relationship right or life right or the order of it or any of the sorts. So I just had to flip how I looked at it. And whether you're single or in a relationship, I suppose that element of creationship rather than relationship, I think is far more fun and generative than trying to look to get the relationship to move on to whatever. I'm not sure if somebody could tell me what the next phase after you've completed the box of relationship, like what's next. But that's the way I look at it. So it's not necessarily a tool, but it was using, like that book, Relationship Are You Sure You Want One, that we talked about at the start, and the tools through Relationship Done Different, of actually really just looking at it from a different place.
That's so cool.
Yeah, I think it's interesting when you start to look at the idea of creationship. I mean, so often when we go into relationships, it's like we talk about gender roles or the like phases of your relationship, right? Like a honeymoon, and then you go into the like, all right, now we're like really creating our lives together, but it doesn't have that energy of creation. It has this energy of like, we got to buckle down. We got work to do, right? It becomes this drudgery. And one of the things that I always love, Chris, when I talk to you about relationship is the fun and the play that you and your husband have together. Is there a secret? Like, how do you maintain that fun and that play in a relationship? Or what would you say to someone that's looking to create more of that in their relationships?
Well, I guess I can sort of relate to a lot of what Melanie and Justine have both said about sort of overall advice and the ways to approach it. And I think the most important thing for me in a relationship with that is the dirty dishes are never actually the issue. They're a symptom of something else that's going on. So to keep that fun and that play going, you need to actually be willing to totally be honest with each other. But I don't mean honest as in, sometimes people want to have these honest conversations, quote unquote, where they tell each other what's horrible about them. And they have these sort of confrontations. And I don't know that that's actually all that constructive. But if you're willing to be really vulnerable together and say what's going on for you and what's up for you, what's going on in your world, and share that kind of information, you can keep things fresh and keep them vibrant and keep to the core of why you actually like this person to begin with. I mean, I remember quite distinctly when I was looking for a relationship, because there was like a really definitive time for me where I was like, okay, right, I'm kind of done playing. Let's find someone who I can create something greater with. And I looked around at all of the people that I know that were in relationships that I admired, and I went, okay, I'd like a bit of this, and I'd like a bit of that, and I'd like a bit of this relationship that I see as well. So to keep that level of sort of fun and play and excitement, keep looking at what is the overall contribution of this person to your life. Not do they make as much money than me? Not do they push their chair in when they leave the table? All those niggly things that you tend to nag about that tend to kill the joy and the fun in the everyday.
Yeah, and I love
Does that make sense?
It's so, Chris, it just so spoke to me. But even just let the dirty dishes be the dirty dishes, because I know I will never go to sleep without cleaning up the dishes. So, but sometimes if I just stopped and actually sat with my husband on the couch and enjoyed his company rather than the cycle.
Right, and mix a drink and sit together and go, like my favorite thing to do with my husband is, I call it watching Channel 1. And Channel 1 is the view from our balcony. And And, because so many relationships these days, you get into this rut of everyone sitting together, but you're all doing this,
Mm-hmm.
and no one's actually engaged with each other. Sorry for everyone out there listening. You can't see that I've picked up my phone to just mindlessly scroll through it. But taking a moment to actually be together.
Yeah. Brilliant.
It really is.
You are.
As Chris is cheersing his tea, I've got my Negroni cocktail.
Ooh, love that.
Lovely.
You. That is wonderful. Cool. Okay. So Justine, so you're like a professional, you have a amazing public relations business, and you've got children and a husband now we just spoke about. How do you manage all of those relationships? Like the relationship with your business, with your clients, with your husband, with your children? Like, what's your one piece of advice as you go into the creation of your life, or just one tip?
I would say I definitely don't have it right. I definitely have mum's guilt when I enjoy working, probably more than, playing with my kids. I definitely have a lot of guilt around, I'm not being present with them. I'm trying to answer emails whilst I'm with them and multitask. But I think the one thing is just not making yourself wrong, because the kids can pick up on that energy. So yeah, there's a lot of balls juggling all the time, but what I'm trying to do now is like have that time off the phone, or if I'm taking the kids to the park, to really enjoy the energy of them playing and watching their sweet bodies run and sliding down the slippery slide. And I just noticed that kind of fills me up with a different kind of joy. And by stepping away from the emails, the computers, the booking interviews and things like that, it actually fills me up in a different way. So, I was listening to Emily Russell's Energy Shopping, and she was talking a lot about like that energy of the children, or hugging your kids. So I really am more present with that as well. So I think it's like whatever you're doing, just really enjoy it and being in the moment. Like exactly what Chris was saying, if you're going to sit next to your husband, I mean, we're all guilty of scrolling on the phone, like up and down, hopefully not left and right on another dating app, but but it's yeah, I think it's just stopping and actually enjoying, rather than the dishes or my to-do list or what have I got tomorrow. And I'm guilty of it, but I'm learning every day. Yeah.
Well, I think you bring up a really good point that no matter whether you're in relationship, not in relationship, desiring it, not desiring it, like none of it's wrong. You're not wrong for desiring it. You're not wrong for not choosing it. Anything that you've chosen up to this point, whether it was maybe not your best choice, been there, done that, can totally relate, right? Or you're not wrong. So it's that thing of, I love what you said, Chris, about like just taking the pieces of like, I'd actually like that, or I would like a relationship or a business, or my relationship with my body or my friends, whatever that is, like actually getting clear on what it is you'd like to create. And then wait, like moving forward and allowing that energy to show up, and those people to show up, and those just all of that, allowing it to show up for you. One of the biggest things that changed my reality in relationships was actually sitting down, and I wrote down relationships, sex, business, my body. And I think that was the only one, those are the ones that I wrote down. And I just started to write down like all of the things that I actually desired in those areas of my life. So like, what did it look like? What did it feel like? What sort of people was I engaging with? Like, was I traveling? And it changed so much because I could actually see when things showed up or people showed up that like didn't quite match the energy of what I was asking for, not from judgment, but from just like, no, I'm going to like pass on that little escapade because maybe it's not going to contribute to the greater future that I want. Like getting that clarity that you guys both talked about is so cool. And it creates a lot to just get really clear about what it is that you actually are looking to create. I love that. Mel, do you have anything to add on that?
Yes, I do. I love what you said. There seems to be like a theme going, and I always feel like the party pooper that comes in on the end, and it starts with you. you know, because a lot of the time we look outward for something and we want this and we want that. And when we don't get it, we might get stroppy or, you know, get fussy or anything. But anywhere you're not willing to be anything for you, you can't really kind of invite into your life. So it for me it's very much that adventure of what I would like to create as my life, and having our relationship as an addition to it, something, you know, that doesn't complete it but definitely complements what I'm looking to create.
I love that. Cool. Well, thank you all for taking some time to chat, and I am so looking forward to see where these conversations go. So thank you so much, Chris and Justine and Mel, for being here. And what else is possible now? We'll see you guys next time.